Camron leaving Sirius XM, just got done with the MaxB interview. MaxB had the NY streets flooded. Jimmy acting like he can't see the water rise.
Man, these niggas go back like 40 years. When you hear that, you definitely come home with the energy, because I'm going to keep it 100. Yo, Killer, I got to talk to the governor in Jersey.
Yeah,
Yo, once I speak to the mayor in East Brunswick coming up.
It was, like I said, you just got to switch the mindset.
MaxB coming home. Where we at with that? Are you able to get past that?
No.
The second MaxB touched freedom again, the whole rap world lit up like somebody flipped the switch on an entire city. Conversations popped off everywhere, old clips came flying back into timelines, and people instantly wanted to know who was really standing beside him and who was quietly keeping distance. That's when everyone spotted Jim Jones acting a little different, posting comments online that had people stopping mid-scroll like, hold on, what's he trying to say with that? Things got even crazier once Max sat down with Camron and Mace for that first big talk, because that reunion shook the culture. Out of nowhere, Cam dropped a bold claim saying Jim still feels uneasy whenever Max's name comes up, even after all these years. And hearing that sent the internet into instant chaos. If that's real, then this isn't just some old disagreement.
I want you to pass it at some point.
Want me to crash out?
I definitely don't want you to crash out, because I don't want to crash.
This goes way deeper and way more personal than people thought. So now we're breaking it all down. What sparked the original tension? Why does Jim still react every time Max's name enters the conversation? And why does Max coming home make the whole room tense up the second his name gets mentioned? Max, Bigavelli Big Av, has always been that artist people look at and say, wow, he changed the entire wave without ever getting the full spotlight he deserved. Every time you peel back another layer, you see someone who quietly shaped a huge part of New York's sound, influencing everybody without needing loud credit. His real name is Charlie Wingate, born and raised in Harlem, and he carried Harlem energy in every verse, every hook, every moment he touched the mic. He came up in the early to mid 2000s rolling with Jim Jones's Bird Gang, but here's the real twist. Max was never just another name in the background. His whole style was loose, melodic, almost drifting between singing and rapping in a way nobody else in New York was even attempting at the time. It felt raw, smooth, unfiltered, and people couldn't get it out of their heads because nothing in the city sounded like that.
Bitch, her name was Cindy and Mindy, I wasn't sure cause I was too tipsy off the Remy, playing big in the vein. Let me cream, my dick was a buckle, I was the ATM machine. Had the sparkle all in my ear, the low, never on the low, nipples and blowing on the top.
That wavy, laid-back vibe people later linked to artists like ASAP Rocky, Max was already deep in that lane years before anyone thought it could take over the culture. His impact wasn't loud at first, but it was powerful, and anyone who really knew the city sound could feel it. And Max wasn't just making songs, he was flooding the streets with tapes that became instant classics. $1 Million Baby, the Public Domain series, Wave with French Montana, all of it hit the underground so hard that these projects turned into cult favorites even without mainstream radio backing them. Max was the rapper other rappers studied, pulled inspiration from, and tried to imitate because his imprint was everywhere.
I ain't gonna lie, MaxB really inspired my whole rapping career too. I feel like, not rapping career, but you see the way I'm making melodies.
Yeah.
He was a big part of that, because before I started rapping, I was singing MaxB all the time.
But just when he hit peak momentum in 2006, everything flipped fast. Max got pulled into a serious robbery case that completely knocked his rise off track and shifted his whole career in a way nobody saw coming. The situation was messy, dramatic, and intense, all unfolding on September 22nd, 2006, and it sent shockwaves through the scene instantly. Things took an even more complicated turn when MaxB's ex-girlfriend, Gina Conway, told him about a man she had recently met named Alan J. Plowden, setting off a chain of events nobody was ready for. She told Max that this man carried real money on him, and instead of leaving that information alone, Max allegedly looked at it like an opportunity he didn't want slipping away. He reached out to his stepbrother Kelvin Levo and told Gina to go with him, setting off a chain of events that would end up changing multiple lives forever. Kelvin, Gina, and the plan led them to a Holiday Inn in Fort Lee where Plowden was staying. Gina knocked on the door, and another woman, Giselle Neves, opened it. She explained that Plowden was asleep, but before anything could stay calm, Kelvin flashed a weapon, pointing it at her in a threatening way. Gina then used tape to restrain her, and suddenly the entire room fell into complete chaos. They started tearing through the place, searching every corner for the money they believed was hidden there, but nothing showed up. That's when they woke Plowden up, tied him, and started pressing him with questions about where the cash was. Plowden kept saying there was nothing in that room, so Kelvin told him to call his business partner David Taylor and ask him to bring the money over immediately. The tension in that room must have been intense.
Let his kids go. Where's daughter?
They're gonna talk. Oh.
Let's see it, nigga.
The kind of pressure that makes everybody breathe different. When Taylor finally walked in and saw what was happening, everything spiraled even quicker. He tried to fight back against Kelvin, and during that struggle, the weapon went off in the commotion. Taylor was tragically harmed, and the entire situation took a devastating turn in seconds, shifting everything from a planned robbery into something far more serious and heartbreaking. The whole moment changed lives instantly, and nobody in that room walked away the same. After the chaos broke out, Gina grabbed Giselle's purse and took about $800 from Taylor's pockets while Kelvin snatched Taylor's watch. And that's the heartbreaking part. These people threw their futures away over small cash and tiny items that weren't worth anything close to the damage that followed.
I would never work for that cornball ass nigga again. Me? I'm a boss. I'm not with that. It's never nothing no more. Like, I look like a boss, I feel like a boss, I taste like a boss. Max Bigger Val. Get out of here, man. So Jim Jones, compare the names. Look, Max Bigger Val. Jim Jones. The fuck? Don't even add up. They're not with.
This wasn't some grand plan or major payout. It was a chain of terrible decisions that flipped lives upside down in seconds. Once they fled, Plowden immediately told the hotel what happened. And when authorities arrived, they found him trying to hide around $30,000. That move backfired on him fast because it pulled him into his own legal trouble on top of everything he had just witnessed. A few days later, police caught up with Gina, and she didn't hold anything back. She broke down Max's role, Kelvin's involvement, and how the whole plan came together from the start. And once she talked, everything moved quickly. Max and Kelvin were arrested and hit with multiple charges, with Max being held on a massive $2 million bail while the case played out. By 2009, Gina agreed to a plea deal. She admitted to serious charges related to the incident and agreed to testify, facing up to 18 years behind bars. Meanwhile, the trial for Max and Kelvin kicked off in May 2009 and stretched into June, pulling in huge attention across the city. On June 9th, both were found guilty on 9 of 11 charges, including a severe felony count that would follow them for years to come. The sentencing was extremely harsh. Max was hit with 75 years, while Kelvin received a life sentence plus an additional 35 years. These outcomes show just how heavy the fallout can be when one moment spirals into complete disaster.
I'm gonna keep it tall. That's kind of how I missed out on MaxB. I'm just being straight up honest. And Jim ended up signing him because Jim seen the vision, because Jim had an outside vision of Max. I grew up with Max. Charlie Rambo, play all day, joking all the time. So when he came to me and said he gonna start rapping, I was like, yo, Charlie, stop playing. His exact words was killer. They were like, no, let's get this clicking like Dorothy's heels.
MaxB, he wasn't MaxB, his name was Charlie Rambo. He get out of jail, he come up to me. This is word for word. So I'm like, Charlie, what up? When you guys say, yo, Flea, I just came home. I said, y'all say you always just come. He said, yo, Flea, you know how to rap now. Let's get this clicking like Dorothy's heels.
The very next day, Gina was sentenced to 15 years for her role in the situation. Max later tried to appeal the outcome, hoping something would change. But by August 2012, the appeal was denied, leaving that original 75-year sentence fully in place. It became one of the most shocking legal cases connected to the New York rap scene, and the impact from it is still felt today. Then everything flipped again in 2016 when MaxB's entire case cracked open out of nowhere. It was revealed that his original lawyer had a major conflict of interest, something that should have been caught long before. Because of that issue, the conviction was thrown out, and Max ended up taking a plea for aggravated manslaughter instead, dropping that massive 75-year sentence all the way down to 20. That shift completely changed the direction of his future. Fast forward to November 9th, and the news hit the internet like an earthquake. Max was officially released after spending nearly 16 years behind bars. Stepping back into the world after that long is a life reset on every level, and people around him said he was focused on reconnecting with family, getting grounded again, and entering a new chapter with more stability and clarity. His homecoming became a non-stop topic online. Friends, loved ones, and longtime supporters were ready to greet him, including French Montana, who had stayed loyal to Max since the very beginning. French even posted a video of the moment he welcomed Max outside the facility, adding the caption, "Can't make this up," turning the moment into something the entire culture saw and celebrated. "My brother really came home on my B-day. Humla, no more free you." That reunion clip spread everywhere like wildfire. But here's where the story swings hard, because the tension between MaxB and Jim Jones runs deep, and it didn't start from some random moment. This history has layers. When Max first linked with Bird Gang and the whole Dipset movement, he wasn't just standing around catching vibes. He was putting in real creative work. Hooks, melodies, ideas, pieces of verses, everything that helped shape that fresh wave people were going crazy over back then. And for years, the talk in the streets has been that Max played a role in some major tracks, including huge anthems like We Fly High. Whether people want to agree or not, those whispers never faded, and just that alone added serious tension to the situation. But the real clash kicked off behind the scenes. According to Max, he was grinding non-stop, pouring his creativity into the music, but he wasn't getting the credit he felt he earned. No proper split, no real shine, and barely any type of pay. Word started circulating that while Jim Jones was pulling serious money from shows, Max was leaving with just a couple $100s. That type of gap will make anybody feel pushed aside and unappreciated. Max didn't keep quiet either. He spoke up and said straight out that he wasn't being treated fairly and definitely not being treated like an equal. That honesty lit up the whole situation even more, pushing the tension from quiet frustration into something everybody around them could feel. Max felt like someone who helped build the whole vision but still wasn't allowed to sit at the main table, and that type of disrespect stacks up brick by brick until it finally explodes. Once Max broke away from Bird Gang, the situation heated up fast. He linked with French Montana, and the two started dropping tracks that were bold, confident, and sharp enough to let the whole city know Max wasn't staying quiet anymore. They didn't need to say Jim's name in every track. The tone alone told everyone exactly who those lines were meant for. The music showed a whole different side of the story, and people finally started realizing how much Max had poured into the sound everyone loved. Jim Jones has always insisted he never tried to block Max from his money, saying he was just operating the way his mentors taught him. But here's the part he never highlighted. Max didn't just walk away empty and accept that situation, he took it straight to court. Max sued over his publishing rights, and the judge ordered Jim to hand everything back. That detail flips the entire story instantly because it proves Max wasn't imagining things, he knew his work had value. Camron has spoken on this more than once, and he has always leaned toward Max's side of the story. Cam said Jim had a pattern of wanting control over the people around him and sometimes taking credit for work he didn't personally create. Cam even revealed he planned to sign Max himself way back, but before he could make the move, Jim rushed in and brought Max into Bird Gang first. That single move alone created tension inside the Dipset circle, especially once people realized how talented Max really was. Even with all the history and all the drama, Max and Cam have managed to keep things cool through the years. So when Max got released, one of his first major moves was sitting down for an interview with Cam and Mace, and the energy in that room was calm, respectful, and full of Harlem history. They talked about the old days, Max's time away, and where he wants to take his life now, real grown man conversation. And here's something important. Max didn't mention Jim once during that whole sit down. No shots, no shade, no slick comments, nothing. He didn't try to bring up old problems or relive the past. His whole mindset looked focused on what's ahead, not what's behind him. But even if Max isn't speaking on Jim, Jim definitely seems like he's still carrying something heavy under the surface. In a recent interview, when someone asked him straight up if he could let the past stay in the past, Jim didn't dance around it. He said no. No explanation, no breakdown, no trying to make it sound soft. His whole vibe switched instantly, like the question hit a nerve he didn't want to touch. That one moment had people talking everywhere. A lot of viewers felt like Jim is still emotionally tied to things from way back in the early days. One person even said, Jim still gets triggered thinking about the old online videos where Max was clowning him non-stop on WorldStar, dropping jokes, dropping jabs, and calling him out again and again. That era was wild, and those clips never truly disappeared from the culture's memory. Those moments lived everywhere online back in the day, so it's no surprise some of that stuck with Jim. Other people brought up the old hotel incident, saying situations that heavy leave marks on everyone involved, no matter how much time passes. But then another viewer came in with a completely different angle, something way more emotional, the kind of take that makes you stop for a second. They said the only reason Jim talks tough now is because Max isn't standing in front of him in person. In their exact words, if those two ever crossed paths face to face, there's no way they wouldn't eventually break down all that tension and rebuild some kind of brotherhood. They even said the love is still there and that both sides were hurt, but neither wants to admit it. And honestly, that take hits deep because both of these men went through loyalty issues, pressure, money problems, lost time, pride, and public embarrassment. All things that leave emotional scars. And sometimes, the stronger the bond once was, the harder it is to fix what got damaged. Even with everything that happened between them, you can still feel something real underneath all that history. But the tension around MaxB and Jim Jones didn't stay locked in the past the way some people hope. The moment Max got released, a whole wave of old footage, interviews, and behind-the-scenes stories started popping back up online. People began connecting dots again, pulling out details, and breaking down the timeline in ways that made the whole situation feel way bigger than just a personal feud. It went from an old disagreement to something the entire culture was revisiting, trying to understand how two Harlem legends went from building together to standing on opposite sides of history. One thing that kept coming up in all these conversations was just how much Max influenced the sound that eventually pushed New York rap into a whole new era. Fans started revisiting those old mixtapes, breaking down the harmonies, the flows, the hooks, everything that rappers today are still using. Some people even called Max one of the earliest architects of the modern wave, and that sparked fresh debates about credit, legacy, and who really shaped the blueprint. That energy alone made the industry look at Max differently now that he's home. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jim has spent years rebuilding and reshaping his career, dropping music, handling business moves, stacking accomplishments, but fans say his reactions whenever Max's name gets mentioned still reveal something deeper, like there's unfinished business or old wounds that never fully healed. Anytime Max's name comes up, the whole tone in the room shifts instantly. Another big thing people keep bringing up is how the split between the two didn't just hurt their personal relationship, it reshaped entire alliances in Harlem. Max teaming up with French Montana created its own wave, while Jim doubling down on Dipset loyalty led to splits that rippled through different circles. Even now, older heads from the city talk about that era like they were watching a neighborhood chapter unfold in real time. And a lot of folks also mention how Max's legal situation completely changed the trajectory for everyone involved. When he got locked up back in 2009, certain projects never happened, certain collaborations faded away, and momentum that was building fast suddenly came to a stop. It was one of those moments that didn't just shift one artist's career. It shifted the direction of multiple crews, friendships, and entire movements across Harlem. Certain songs never got finished, and entire movements lost their spark once Max was gone. Some insiders even say that if Max had stayed free, the whole New York sound might have taken a completely different direction during the late 2000s and early 2010s. Just the idea of that keeps the conversation alive, and now that Max is released, the spotlight is back on him in a major way. People want to know what his music will sound like after so many years away. Is he bringing back that original wave? Is he flipping into something new? Will he link up with old collaborators or slide into a fresh lane entirely? Everyone is watching because Max always had that natural ability to shift the energy without forcing anything. Meanwhile, Jim's supporters are standing strong for him, saying he's moved on and doesn't owe anyone explanations. They think the internet keeps replaying old problems even when Jim is focused on building different things now, but others argue the emotional tension is too real to ignore. Two men with talent, history, and pride don't just walk away without feeling something, and that's where things get complicated. Because no matter how much time passes, MaxB and Jim Jones stay connected in the eyes of the culture. Their story goes way beyond music. It's about pride, loyalty, betrayal, missed chances, and what happens when business and friendship get so tangled that everything eventually cracks. A lot of people watching all this unfold keep saying the same thing, that the way Jim reacted comes from a place of old emotions he never fully dealt with. And now that Max is back outside, all those feelings are bubbling up again, whether he admits it or not. When someone carries that kind of history, it doesn't just vanish because years passed or careers evolved. And that's why a lot of people think Jim's reaction wasn't really about anger. It was about hurt. You can feel it in the way he shuts down certain questions, the way his whole energy tightens up the second Max's name gets mentioned. That isn't "I don't care." That's someone who still feels something deep inside. And when emotions run that deep, nobody knows if that means there's room for a future conversation or if that door has been sealed shut forever. But there's another side to this story that doesn't get talked about enough. Max came home with a calmer spirit, moving like someone who went through real reflection and wants peace instead of tension. After 16 years inside, anybody would come out different. And you can see in his interviews that he's choosing freedom over feuding, growth over old pressure. That alone opens a lane for healing, if both sides want it. The real question is whether Max and Jim could ever sit down face to face without all the noise, opinions, and history surrounding them. Fans love choosing sides and throwing takes online, but the truth is only Max and Jim know the real details, the real moments, the real conversations behind closed doors. Sometimes the things that break a bond aren't just about money or credit. They're deeper, more personal, and tough to even explain out loud. And some people believe that time will eventually push them to talk again, because Harlem is small, the rap world is even smaller, and paths cross when you least expect it. Whether they reconnect or keep their distance forever, one thing is clear. The story between MaxB and Jim Jones runs deeper than music, deeper than deals, and deeper than anything the internet could ever fully understand. Some people think the pain runs too deep and the pride runs way too high for anything to ever get fixed. They say the old interviews, the back and forth moments, the jabs, the silence, the years of distance, all of it stacked up into a wall way too tall for either man to climb now. But no matter which side you rock with, one thing is impossible to ignore. This story is not finished. MaxB being free changes the whole energy in the room, and whether he reconnects with old allies, links with new ones, or decides to stay in his own lane completely, the entire industry is watching every move he makes. And Jim's reactions will keep drawing attention too, because people want to know if that old tension is still heavy, or if there's ever a chance both men finally let it go. So here's the real question for you. Do you think they can move forward, or has everything that went down made it impossible for them to ever get back to anything close to brotherhood? Let me know what you think, because this situation has layers on top of layers, and everybody has their own take on what the future could look like. And before you head out, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe for more wild celebrity stories and behind-the-scenes drama. I'll see you in the next one, and don't go far. The next video popping up on your screen is packed with even more celebrity chaos, so click it and keep the drama rolling.